I've seen the catastrophic end to an industry that used to be mighty that can fall. So understanding that, realizing that that can happen in any industry. So I understand who we need to be in the future. Who we are today, I would say, confuses the market. At highest level, my job is to get you to your next transaction successfully.
Welcome back to Nevada Realtors Today, your place for timely updates on the news and trends that matter to realtors in the Silver State. And now let's join your Nevada Realtors President, Brandon Roberts, and Nevada Realtors CEO, Tiffany Banks, for today's episode of Nevada Realtors Today.
We are so grateful to have the incredible NAR CEO, Nykia Wright, join us today. Nykia, you have a fascinating background. Can you share the path that led you to the role of the NAR CEO at such a critical time in our industry?
Yes. So first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. This has been an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm originally from Atlanta. I always knew that I wanted to do something in the business world. And so when I went to university, I majored in business. When I left there, I went to Europe. I studied business at the University of Cambridge. And I also did some investment banking at JP Morgan Chase in the city of London. I moved back to Atlanta, where I'm from, and I worked in the finance world, analyzing the financial statements of thousands of different franchise concepts. I fell in love with franchising at that part. I went to Dartmouth to get my MBA, and I also studied at the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad, India. So as you can see, business is a theme. After I graduated from Dartmouth, I moved to Chicago, where I was a business doctor for about 8.5 years. And so I was helping top tier universities with strategic planning. I was helping Fortune 100 and 500 companies with performance improvement, strategy, IT, the whole gamut. And so I had the opportunity to bring all of that in-house when I was asked to join the Chicago Sun-Times as the chief operating officer. I did that for 1 year and was elevated to CEO. And so as you all can just imagine, anything you know about journalism as it relates to the industry being under siege. So managing that in a very critical time in journalistic history. And when I got the call to see if I could be interim CEO at the National Association of Realtors, I said yes. I had seen turbulence in the journalism industry, so I was not afraid of that. And like I said at the beginning, it's been an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm very happy that I am here. I am a business doctor by trade, and so the challenges do not scare me, and I'm just excited about what's ahead.
That's so impressive. And I think I didn't know all of that about you. And I feel like I've read so much and learned so much about you, but all that is so fascinating. I started also as an interim CEO. Mine was only for a week. And then I thought, I'm doing the job or I'm not doing the job. You guys either are putting me in or not, because I had to rehire myself and do all the things. And so, but going into the interim role, you don't know exactly what's ahead. Like it's all new, but yet you know you want to make changes and drive the vision forward. So, oh, that's so exciting.
That's very well said. That's very well said.
So you are a turnaround CEO and you're leading NAR through significant change. What's your vision for the future of the association?
One, first and foremost, the association has to be strong enough to withstand and future-proof itself as it relates to the real estate industry. We all know that residential and some parts of commercial real estate at least make up 20% of the gross domestic product of this country. It represents investments. It represents people's ability to move from one particular social class to another or maintain their social status in specific areas. It gives people a safety net. It gives people a place to grow, to create families and to create memories. And so I would say there is no other asset in any asset class in America that does all of those things. And so when we think about what we are preserving as it relates to jobs for realtors, as it relates to the entire ecosystem for financial transactions, but also as it relates to consumers and realizing their dreams, you begin to understand that intersection of doing well, but also making sure that you are part of something that is sustainable for years to come. And so our vision is to move along with the market. The reason that I say that is because the market right now is not static. You can imagine in a post-settlement world, many things have changed. And I would argue that there is not one company in America that is touching certainly residential real estate and in some cases commercial that is not rethinking their strategies. And so who NAR was yesterday is not going to be who they are tomorrow. We are in the midst of interviewing, survey groups, all of these things right now to make sure that not only do we need to know what our realtors are asking for in terms of help from the National Association, but looking to see what the strategic plans of the larger companies, the mid-tier companies, and the smaller companies are doing to make sure that we are continuing to add value to them in whatever way possible. Yesterday, I think we used to be everything to everyone, and there is no place for that right now, given that there are so many strategies. And so we are looking for the through line in all of those strategies to see how we can be helpful. If you're talking about a publicly traded company, there could be risk factors that we can manage. If you're talking about an independent brokerage that wants to continue to grow, there are growth opportunities that we have for them. If you're talking about people who are entering the industry and looking for a second career or a second mountain to climb, there's that opportunity. But there are also second, third, and fourth generation people who are leaving college or probably not going into college, but their families have created these very strong businesses that they are expected to inherit. And so making sure that we understand what their needs are and getting them to that next level to make a very nice, sustainable living for themselves, but also to, again, underpin 20% of the GDP.
Mhm. You're exactly right.
So, Nykia, thank you for being on here. It's really an honor of us to have you on here and speaking to our members and on the podcast, Nevada Realtors Today. I love what you just said there about all the things and kind of almost taking a look at everything and almost reinventing things. That's kind of where we've been at the state level, going through that. So we've looked at everything, and a lot of times through challenge and change comes opportunity. And with everything that you kind of shared there, how do you see state and local associations playing into the vision with the national, and how do you see us best working together?
One, we must work together in order for this ecosystem to work together. I think one of the privileges that I have of having come from journalism is I've seen the catastrophic end to an industry that used to be mighty that can fall.
Mhm.
So understanding that, realizing that that could happen in any industry is what sort of keeps me motivated. The states and locals are important, and I think you can sort of witness that, be a testament of my having just added Jared Grasso to our team to ensure that that is a relationship that's not a side gig, but that it is a main business. And so he and his team are responsible for traveling around the country, understanding where NAR fell short in the past, understanding where, when there was an absence of leadership, what states and locals had to carry on their own, get back into that conversation and see how we can punch above our weight class and help. I think people look at sort of three-way agreement or those sort of types of terms as dirty words. Jared will say, these are partnerships, regardless of what you call them, they are partnerships. And so a fundamental aspect of a partnership is give and take. It's not top down, it's not bottom up, it's a combination of both, right? It's not sitting at a table where there's a head person at the table, but it's almost a circular table where everyone all has an egalitarian, equal opportunity to be able to bring their ideas forth. There are states and locals who are much closer to the customer than we are, and we have to lean into that. We can't guesstimate from the national level what people are needing. And so leveraging, I call them relationships. I like how Jared calls them partnerships. So whether you say relationships or partnerships, states and locals are definitely an important part of our go forward strategy.
Mhm. Yeah, we've really seen more than ever, I think, in this last year, how important these partnerships are and how you said we can't be all things to all people. It's so true. And there's certain things that the locals can do and they do very, very well. And there's things that we at the state can do and augment that we can do very well. And as long as we keep in mind the support and even what NAR does for us when we have to have issues mobilization and these big issues that we're fighting on the state level, and we have the support, even if we're boots on the ground doing it, for us, those relationships are everything. And it's not just calling when you need it, it's actually building on those partnerships and relationships. And like you said, the give and take to make each other stronger and better, and looking how we can serve the members and the consumers. There's so many consumers that don't know what we do. So the more we're able to educate them on, we're fighting bad property taxes for you, or we're doing certain things at the state level, then they can understand, oh, that's who does that. I just thought that happens. But no, there's actually a group that cares so much about protecting you that that's our day in and day out work. So thank you for that partnership.
I should be interviewing you, Tiffany, but yes, all the things.
Brandon.
I'm super lucky because you guys are both amazing CEOs, and just to sit back and be able to watch what both of you are accomplishing and how you're moving our industry and our associations forward are huge. And one of the things Tiffany's done is she's really built a great team around her. Um, yeah, and Nevada Realtors doesn't look like what it looked like 2 years ago at all. And I'm sure that NAR doesn't either up there. And you're evolving your leadership team to meet the vision. Can you speak to how you're building that team?
Absolutely. And so I tell people one of the toughest things that a CEO has to do is build a world class team. And so the first piece of that was bringing in our first chief human resources officer, who promised me a world class team. With world class talent comes world class expectations. And so while we are bringing in best in class, there's also a management style difference, making sure that they have the resources they need to keep them motivated in ways that are helpful to the organization. I'm very, very proud of the partners that I have. Very, very proud. I think these are some of the best people in the industry. They want to help solve this problem alongside the volunteer leadership team and board of directors. So we've got a new chief human resources officer. We've got a new SVP of events and education who's starting next week. We've got our sort of core pillars of advocacy, which is Shannon, and then you've got strategic business and partnerships, and that's Mark Burschbach. Those are the pillars that who have the institutional knowledge, who have leaned in and said, "I want to help," and they're some of the smartest people in the industry. Then I've added a chief financial officer, which is super important. And we are continuing to interview for our comms person. I would say we're probably about 3 weeks away from hopefully making a decision. We're still very much mired in the interview process, but I've seen some incredible candidates. And so I'm almost certain that our choices will come out of that candidate pool. And so that will really round out the rest of the team that's added to Dr. Lawrence Yoon for his research, and Jared Grasso. And then you've got the special advisor of Sherry Chris as it relates to making sure that those big broker partnerships, relationships, are those conversations are being brought to the table. We're widening the table for the first time in a very long time. I think one of the most important pieces of information that we've gotten as it relates to feedback is that people have experienced NAR in silos. And so we have to make sure that that's not how they see us. When we bring the house is where the value proposition lives. It doesn't live just in advocacy. It doesn't live just in strategic planning and partnerships. It doesn't live just in state and local relationships or just in research. It's the house. It's the house that makes the value very difficult to break, right? You can't put a dollar value in my mind on advocacy plus research plus education and events plus comms plus all of those things. And when you try to deconstruct that, there's no way that you could do that for the amount of money that people are paying at the national level. And so the more that we can bring the house, the less people can deconstruct it and look at it as, I don't see the value proposition.
Mm-hmm. What did the member experience look like in this reimagined NAR?
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to quickly pull something up because I have an answer to that. We are still working on it. But what it does is it shows what we are doing as it relates to being first in news. That's super important. Being first voice in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about being the voice of real estate years ago. Well, that's changed. There are lots of people, lots of businesses, thousands of people, thousands, millions of members who can be a voice for real estate, but we're the first voice. We are leveraging Dr. Lawrence Yoon, who is very, very well renowned in research. Just 2 weeks ago, he was called out in the Wall Street Journal as one of the top economists for 2024. Why is that? Because there were 5 economists who ended up predicting more likely than not what would happen. And he was in the top 5 for those predictions having come true. He's world class. And so it is our job to get that information out first from those market statistics, from those economic models, from those psychographics information. People can then decide how they're going to use that information, segment their own populations, and go forth and do the business of real estate. As it relates to being the advocacy partner, of course, people know us for that, but continue to make sure that we are not sapping that of any of its strength. When we're talking about partnerships, it's not just the states and locals. It's not just the big brokerages. It's not just the MLSs. But to your point earlier, Tiffany, it's also making sure that the consumers are brought along to understand that. And so when members call NAR or contact NAR, they need to see the benefits. They need all of those things being brought to bear. And overwhelmingly, from that 75,000 person outreach, because it was surveys, focus groups, and everything in between, that's what they said they wanted. So that's going to be our core. Now, as we continue to talk to more big brokers, more information comes in and we can design on top of that, right? When we talk to more MLSs and understand what their challenges are, you design to bring that on top of that. When you talk to the states and locals, and when you talk to even consumers, one of the things with the consumer guides that we're doing that I think is super important is we're at least giving out these guides whereby realtors can at least start having higher order conversations with their clients, and they always don't have to start at the basic level.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because we would always call ourselves also the voice of real estate. But being the first, you're absolutely right. Then that sets the tone and the narrative. So that is so smart. And what we've kind of leaned into is being the trusted voice. So when they come and search our website, we're like, what information is a consumer looking for? So we revamped all of that instead of being so member centric and it's geared towards members. We're like, what does your client look for? So then that will help and you in turn do your job and do your job successfully. So it's these little tweaks almost that they can be the most impactful. So I love that you're saying about the first, and I've actually seen that a lot more recently as you read something and it is coming directly from you guys, not a story about NAR, which I think is fantastic.
Wait till I get my comms director.
All geared up.
Yes.
Brandon?
Yeah, well, I love the consumer reports that you're putting out. They're super useful. Me as a broker, I'm using them with my agents and stuff, and encouraging them to use them with the clients. And you explain a lot of what the member experience looks reimagined, and there's lots to look forward to. But let's talk about today. What is the pillars of the membership experience today?
So I understand who we need to be in the future. Who we are today, I would say, confuses the market. I've got a ton of benefits, but a list of benefits does not sort of articulate the value proposition. I can tell you that you can get discounts on these things. I can tell you 5 things that advocacy did just this morning, right before we ate breakfast. I can tell you what we are doing as it relates to education and events, but those are sort of lists in silos. Supposed to be trying to show you in the future is this is the basket of opportunities. This is the drone view of what all of these things can measure up to for you to understand that it's more important, I think, to put daylight between a realtor and an agent. And so a realtor will have this basket of goods. A realtor will have a code of ethics that they are proud of, as opposed to sort of administrative burdens. A realtor will be able to sort of consolidate the thoughts and the creativity in the market to get people to those sort of that next transaction. So at the highest level, my job is to get you to your next transaction successfully. De-risking the portfolio as it relates to rules and all of those things, my true north always is next successful transaction. And so that's communication then around CCP. That's communication around the settlement. That's communication around anything that we are doing, because the true north always is to get you to your next transaction.
I love how you said that all. And I think the one thing we've really seen out of NAR is communication and being informed. And so I really do thank you for that.
Thank you.
Brandon, you want to touch on the advocacy piece?
Yeah, and you did mention advocacy in there, and I think that's a big thing, especially at the state here on our state level. And I know locals do it too, and NAR does it on a national thing, because we are currently fighting to push back rent control legislation in Nevada. And through the help of NAR's issue mobilization grant, we got a pretty significant grant out here, have ramped up constituent communication on the issue. Can you talk about NAR's commitment to supporting state and local issues through these types of programs?
We are 100% committed to that. What is interesting is when you ask most people the value proposition of NAR, the first word that comes out of their mouth is advocacy, and that's not lost on me. So even earlier when I said I cannot sap that of its strength at the expense of getting these other sort of pillars or core components together. I'm very serious about that. I want to make sure that that stays as strong as possible. And in order to do that, though, we've got to continue to monitor the budget, maintain it, ensure that we are not pulling from one bucket too much into another, looking at some of the programs that we have already put forth that may not be as mission critical. They may have to be deprioritized in order to continue to fund advocacy at the level that makes sense and that's commensurate with the number of members we have and the initiatives that we are trying to influence, if you will, across the nation.
Mhm. So we were lucky enough to have someone from the Reach program on Second Century Ventures early on in our podcast. And I think a lot of members don't know, or they're not even aware of the amazing founders and products that come through Second Century Ventures. Have you seen that as like such great growth and talking possibilities for you to reach out to members and say, these are different things that exist, just try them out? Because some don't know that that technology exists or how to use it or how NAR supports these types of founders, because it's really impressive.
So thank you. So Mark Birschbach leads that incredible leader. Um, just for everyone's edification, let's just rewind the clock even back a little bit. If you take their investment in DocuSign,
Mhm.
marry that with the advocacy group, put those two
Yeah.
together, that's why we have sort of electronic signatures. That's
Mhm.
bringing the house, right?
Yeah.
Value
Right.
proposition of SCV, and then separately,
Yep.
the proposition of advocacy is bringing those two together.
Mhm.
What I like about that portfolio is they are very serious
Mhm.
about bringing technology to the transaction, but ensuring that the realtor is always at the center of the transaction.
Right. Mhm.
So I would argue that there is no other sort of fund around the globe that ensures that our primary stakeholder group is at the center of the transaction. So it helps them punch above their weight class. It helps them sort of hack time, if you will, as it relates to the transaction, but they are always at the center. Sort of the integrity of their profession is preserved. And Mark will be the first to say innovation has no boundaries, right? So it's not just US based, it's global.
Right.
To have the largest property technology venture capital arm that is not funded by member dollars. So it's not that we're moving member dollars over to that. They have been able to recycle what they've been able to earn to continue to sustain this portfolio in a way that is very unique across the globe.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I know. Brandon and I have had long conversations of just introducing this new technology to the agents and having them try it out. There's not going to be a perfect fit for each one, but if they can become more efficient, more effective, do their job better, like you said, stay at the center of the transaction, why not try it? Like that's the trend of where we're headed.
Mhm.
Brandon, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I've just been. I just really want to thank you again for today because it's nice to know that leadership is I don't want to say touchable but reachable, and that you're paying attention to the needs and your perspective on things is really good, and we're feeling the difference down here in the grassroots. So thank you for that very much.
Thank you. And I'm going to just give a shameless plug to my leadership team, not my senior leaders, but the volunteer leaders, the president of the association, the first vice president, that cohort of leaders. The reason that I said yes to the opportunity is because they were very obviously serious about change. And I compare them to a board of directors because based on size, they are the average traditional
Mhm.
experts or real estate board of directors. I would argue that there's no board of directors around the country that's meeting 52 weeks per year, and sometimes
Mhm.
more times than that. And so I want people to know what their leaders are doing on their behalf to ensure that this industry is healthy and striving. And so the reason that I said yes to the opportunity was because of their leadership. And I think they are a formidable team that recognizes the urgency. And I'm very happy for that.
Mhm. And we're excited that you'll be joining us at our Broker Summit, our Nevada first ever Broker Summit on September 16th in Las Vegas. So
Yes.
it's been working with your team. Sherry Chris is just a phenomenal human being. And we're so grateful to have her also on board, just helping guide us. We want to make sure that the brokers, and we really want to open it up to as many people as we possibly can in the state to come actually have executables, tangible takeaways where they feel like this is something different than they've gone to. So we're really excited about planning that and having you as part of that.
I'm excited. Miss Sherry's actually here in Chicago today. I had a 90-minute meeting with her and some stakeholders this morning. I have another hour meeting after this, and then a 2-hour dinner. So she keeps my dance card full. I'm going to be fat based upon eating and talking. But I'm happy that she's here.
Well, she's incredible. And thank you so much for your time today. Before you go, is there anything else you'd like the members of Nevada Realtors to know?
I'm happy to partner with you, Tiffany, Brandon. Just thank you for your leadership. Mark said this some time ago, and I thought it was tongue in cheek. But the more I think about it, Mark Birschbach, the more I believe it. He said, the cavalry is coming, right? And we are, right? We're getting in place. We're coming to help revive this industry. And so it's going to be interesting.
Well, thank you, Nykia, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.